The Lions don't have to trade the pick, and they will walk away outside of whoever Jacksonville takes with the player they've wanted, the best player on their board in the draft, whatever it may be. The Detroit Lions are fielding calls for the number 2 overall pick.
This
Reportedly,
is good.
This is good, expected.
Yeah.
I think most Lions fans, given how the offseason has played out, have really wanted an option, an ability to trade back in the draft. What does it look like? Is it a future first-round pick and the current first-round pick to move up? What does that trade look like? I don't think any of us really know right now. But this offers us 2 options, right? So now, with the Lions possibly being able to trade back, we have to discuss, well, who are those suitors?
Mm-hmm.
Who would be willing to move up to number 2? Would it be the New York Jets who want an edge? The Giants who want an edge? Would it be the Atlanta Falcons, the Carolina Panthers, the Seattle Seahawks who are in need of a quarterback? Are the Carolina Panthers in the market for Jimmy Garoppolo? Who knows? They're fielding calls for the number 2 pick.
Yeah.
I think that's good news. That's not news I'm worried of, or, oh no, why are we trading back? We should take this player. I think I think there's a consensus across the room. If you're not taking the edge or the quarterback, you probably don't want to be picking at 2. And when I say the edge, I am referring to a Kayvon Thibodeau or Trayvon Walker or Aidan Hutchinson. And if you're not confident in one of them and you don't take the quarterback, you're in a tough spot at number 2. You taking a safety? We'll have to wait and see. But, Jeff, what do you think?
I love it. And obviously we expected it, of course, at number 2. Now, will they be able to find a trade partner? That's the hard part, because you got to understand, Carolina, at least at this point, I'm feeling they're taking a quarterback. Something just tells me that. I don't know how Matt Rule's thinking, but again, you need to address that quarterback position, especially because Matt Rule is on the hot seat going into his possible final year of being the head coach of the Carolina Panthers. So if anybody wants to trade up, ideally, you want to jump in front of Carolina. Now, do the New York Giants want to trade out? Do the Jets want to trade out if they aren't in love with anybody of those top 4 players? Because this draft is very deep. It's different. There's no quarterback. This isn't the draft where Tua and Justin Herbert were coming out, or even last year's draft, multiple quarterbacks in that top 15. It's just a different draft. So obviously we expected this, and this also tells me that maybe someone the Detroit Lions are in love with just don't see him at 2. And that's a good thing. If you're going to be able to take him, if you can still take your guy, at 8 or 9 or even 6, wherever you trade back to, then that's great. But again, who is going to trade up for that number 2 pick? I don't know. Because if I'm Atlanta or if I'm Seattle and I know Carolina's taking a quarterback and I don't feel like Detroit is, maybe teams do feel that way, I just want to trade in front of Carolina. I'm calling up, Joe Sheen of the New York Giants and trying to get a deal done, because those guys, at least trading back a couple spots, more likely, and it'll cost less capital than trading up to number 2, Adam. So how likely is it? I don't know.
The Giants, I don't think they're going to draft a quarterback this year.
No.
I don't.
No,
because
they're not.
I think they believe they're going to be picking in the top 5, top 8 next year.
Yep.
Unless Daniel Jones takes a huge step forward with Brian Daboll. And if he does, well, that's great for New York, right? It's a win-win situation, but we'll have to wait and see. But the Lions fielding calls for the number 2 overall pick this morning has me interested. And my interest is growing and growing with what could happen, right? What should happen. Mm-hmm. And a lot of talk has been made of Kayvon Thibodeau, Kyle Hamilton, hell, even Aidan Hutchinson if the Jaguars decide to draft a tackle. If you trade it now, and what if the Jags take a tackle?
Oh.
That would be funny. But then again, the Lions are in a position where they have a top 7 offensive line. They're going to have a top run game. They'll need to continue to improve in terms of the receiving core. Ideally, Hawkinson comes back and gives you a full season and a productive one. The defense will likely improve given the amount of investment you're going to make in the draft on the defensive side of the ball. It's going to be a better team. So maybe they can afford to go back 3 spots, 6 slots, 7, 8, 9 slots. But at the end of the day, Brad Holmes, I think, is operating in a way, and I've said this before, Detroit, you've never had a GM with this football team that has operated like Brad Holmes has. Ever. You go point to me. Now, I understand Schmidt back in the late 80s, early 90s. He was actually pretty decent. They just had a ball sack football coach. They've always had ball sack football coaches, to be honest with you. And they were never ahead of the league. They were never forward thinking. With Brad Holmes, I'm feeling good about where this roster's going, how it will develop. Mm-hmm. And you take it from there, Jeff. You take it from there. Number 2 overall pick, whether they traded or not, I'm feeling good.
Can I ask you this question? Because
Yeah.
it's an interesting question. How far would you be willing to go down if a
I
team
go
reaches
as far back as 9.
up? Okay, I agree with you there. 9 is-
11, I'd consider. It depends what Washington would give up. But Washington have Carson Wentz,
Right.
so they're not trading up, right? I'm not giving the pick to Minnesota.
I agree with you. 9. That sounds about right.
I think 9
You
is
can still get a
fair
great
and 9
player.
is realistic. People maybe want to entertain the Eagles picks. I don't want to be picking 3 times in the first round this year.
Right in the middle. Yeah.
In the middle. Like, I have to pay these players. What the hell? It's not just fantasy football. You get to take all the players you want. 4 first-round picks. You're selected. You're selected. You're selected. You're selected. You got to pay them. And they're all first-round picks. So, yeah, I'm not interested in trading with the Eagles. The only way they trade out of the number 2 pick is if they fall back 4 to 6 spots and they are confident that they have a guy they know will be on the board at number 7, number 8, number 9, that they're going to walk away feeling really damn good. And then the flip side, the Lions don't have to trade the pick, and they will walk away outside of whoever Jacksonville takes with the player they've wanted, the best player on their board in the draft, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
The Lions at number 2 will be able to make that decision outside of whoever Jacksonville takes. And that's the fit. And that's the move. And that's the discussion now. That's all they really have. What do you think of people saying they should trade for DK Metcalf?
Oh, God, no.
No?
No. Number one, I don't know what his asking price is, and you're going to have to pay DK eventually. And he does bring other baggage with him. I mean, there's a little bit of the attitude. And I get all receivers, at least good receivers, you're going to get a little bit of attitude. But I'm good on DK, guys. I really am. They found DK in the second round, or I believe, second round. So, I mean, great player, but how much capital are you giving up? I'll pass on DK Metcalf. I'm good with that. I'm assuming
Maddie,
you would as well.
You want them to trade the pick? Or stay put, make the decision?
I would rather them just stay put.
Why?
Because I think we have the opportunity to get whoever we want in this draft, and I would rather us not give away a pick and then risk anything. So, I don't know. I know that there's a lot of different, obviously, opportunities out there and a lot of different scenarios that could happen, but I would rather us just keep the number 2 pick and make our decision right away.
And I like what Wasim said in the chat. The only way you should trade that pick is if you get 3 firsts next year to be able to move up to the top of next year's draft and draft a quarterback in C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young. I mean, that's the play, right? Let's say you trade back with Atlanta.
Yeah.
All right, hypothetically. Atlanta gives you next year's first-round pick, the number 8 overall pick, a 4th-round pick to move up to number 2. Let's just throw it out there,
And
right?
Atlanta sucks this year.
Atlanta will suck this year.
Yeah.
No matter who they draft, they will not be a good team. They will be a bottom 5 team. Okay. What does that mean? That means the Lions will have a top 10 pick, a top 15 pick, likely from their pick, and a top 26 pick, top 30 pick from the Los Angeles Rams. They will be able to move heaven and earth, all their picks next year, a future first if they wanted to move up in the draft, and a team would do it. Because if a team feels like, well, even if we draft a quarterback, we're not ready, we don't have players yet, they're going to want the draft capital. I really like that situation. Co-host of the Detroit Lions podcast, Jeff Risdon. Jeff, good morning, man. How are you?
Thanks for having me on. Good to be with you.
We are very excited to have you on, Jeff. I got to start with the news that surfaced yesterday that you were all over. The Detroit Lions reportedly fielding calls for the number 2 overall pick. Brad Holmes talked about it for, I want to say, almost a half hour. Could you give us a little bit more insight into everybody watching what the Lions are looking to do, what options they're exploring, and is there any new information on what the ideal outcome inside the building is with the number 2 overall pick?
He is talking at the owners' meetings, talked with the local reporters. He talked about the willingness to trade out of the number 2 spot, and he also made it clear that he doesn't care who's there at number 2. It doesn't matter what Jacksonville does at number 1. They're still listening to trade offers. He might be trying to generate trade offers. He's certainly listening. They would love to move back and acquire more picks. I think that's something that we've seen that Brad Holmes and this entire the team that's in place now, they would love to get more swings at the bat in the draft, especially if they're not sold on a player at number 2, whether that's Aidan Hutchinson, Kayvon Thibodeau, whoever. They would like to be able to fall back. And the basic premise is, and this is something that I wrote about, the player that you can get at 2 isn't demonstrably better or might not even be better at all than the player that you can get at 6 or 10 or 15 even in this draft. It sort of depends on fit and scheme and need as much as overall talent. There's no real transcendent talents in this draft other than perhaps Evan Neal as an offensive tackle. Lions don't really need an offensive tackle, so they're sort of out on that. So they can slide back and get more picks. They're certainly open to doing that, and I certainly hope that they do that because it makes a lot of sense for them to do that.